We just get through this.
No, I want to get out of here, babe. I'm not coming back.
No, I want us to.
No, I don't want to talk on mic, man. Everyone listens to everything.
Gia and Scott are leaving.
What?
I just saw them with their bags.
It's the idea of Alicia being one of those neighbors that are always twitching the curtain to see what's going on in the neighborhood. That was so producer driven. It was so obvious because one minute she's facing David and having a chat, and I think then she was told turn around and look outside. And the moment she looks outside, you have Gia and Scott leaving their apartment. That was producer driven, really producer driven. Talking about Gia and Scott, I think this is what Married at First Sight needs to do. They need to give people so many strikes before you're out, because at the end of the day, we cannot have Gia holding production to at ransom and saying, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like this, so I'm storming out. They need to tell them, you only have one chance to storm out. Next time you storm out, that's it, we're cutting you off. Because why is she allowed to continue to come and go as she pleases and causing a whole lot of ruckus and destruction? I don't get it. The feedback tasks I thought were good. I think they were really good for those that actually put in the effort. Gia and Scott, the reason why they stormed out, me no know, because at the end of the day, when it came time to give feedback, they were the most terrible. Given that they were giving feedback to a non-confrontational, non-toxic couple, I didn't like it. I think they didn't like the idea that they were having to give positive and sort of confirm that somebody else was doing better than them. That's the impression that I get. Anyway, hey there, thanks for stopping by. It's your girl Valerie. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Married at First Sight Australia, Season 13, Episode 27. Okay, so we're still continuing with the couple, mixers where they go and meet up with someone and have feedback. We have Alicia. Alicia has to sit down with Steve-O. I think this was good for her. They really sort of did a great thing because at the end of the day, Alicia is friends with Rachel, so she knows what Rachel is looking for in a relationship. So at least they were able to give Steve-O someone who was going to give him constructive feedback that would allow him to sort of grow his connection and strengthen his marriage. Alicia gave him, feedback on the fact that she said, you need to take control, you need to be in charge, you need to sort of increase your intimacy, and hopefully that should help things get better. And confidence. So she encouraged him to sort of find something that he could do to sort of show that he is the man of the house, which I thought was great. On his part, Steve-O told her that, one thing I want you to know about David is whether you're in the room or not, he has your back all the time. He's very, respectful of you, and I feel like you're a strong match. I think no one is disputing the fact that David and Alicia are a strong match. I think if you're disputing it, then maybe you need to go to Specsavers, because I think they have a lot of qualities that can actually lead them to be a successful couple, but that doesn't always sort of pan out because at times we don't see what's happening behind the camera. And so to have someone there who actually is participating and giving constructive feedback, I think was good for Alicia. On his part as well, I think Stephen got a lot of positive feedback and sort of what do you call it? You got someone to sort of boost his morale and his spirit. Hopefully that will make him a better husband to his wife. David then returned to the apartment. So he was sitting there and waiting for Alicia to come back. Obviously, he was worried. He was really worried because he had sort of discussed something that Alicia told him not to do. So when she came in, he told her, I met up with what's her name, Beck. And so he told her about the conversations, about the messages. Alicia wasn't happy. She said to him, I told you I wanted to be the one to say this. Why would you say that? And he said, it's not my fault because she brought it up. And he didn't bring it up in a malicious way or whatever. He was trying to defend his wife, to say, whatever my wife is upset about, it's because she saw the messages that you sent. And so I get where Alicia was coming from, because she said the problem with Textgate is the fact that you have Beck trying to blame Gia for releasing the messages, but at the same time not taking responsibility for the words that she put in the messages that are now creating this tense environment. So I get why everyone is upset, and I get why people are sort of calling it out, because at the end of the day, it's not just the fact that the message was released, it's the fact that what was in the messages was very toxic and very sort of degrading to somebody else, especially to someone you don't know. You have Beck and Danny. Beck and Danny reveals that, he was supposed to meet up with Gia, but Gia didn't turn up. He believes Gia didn't turn up because she was afraid that she had lied against him. And so if she turned up, she would have to confront that. He also said the other issue is Gia doesn't want people to see the flaws in a marriage. Do I agree with that? Yes, I do. I think Gia knows that her marriage is not working for her, regardless of whatever she's saying or doing. And this is why she's decided to sort of pretend to be upset every time people put her marriage under a microscope. On her part, Beck revealed that she sat down with David and she was saying, I'm tired of apologizing to everyone because that's all I seem to do. Every time I'm apologizing, I've had to apologize, about the messages. The retreat was terrible for me. I said I love you. So I'm in this space whereby I'm just tired of everything. And it's like, I agree with Danny because Danny said the problem is Beck doesn't want to take responsibility for her messages. She sent the messages out. Now people are upset about the messages. And instead of taking responsibility and apologizing for that, she is now turning it around and saying, well, actually, the person who gave the messages out is the one at fault. No, that's not it. If you had not written those messages, there would be nothing to put out. So I totally agree with Danny. There's trouble in paradise because Sam and Chris, they sort of obviously have this issue whereby Chris came up with a plan of what to do with their relationship after the experiment, but didn't take the time to consult Sam. And so Sam sat down with Philip and had a conversation and was encouraged to go and sort of have this sort of back and forth with his partner and actually clarify what is happening. So they sat down for a chat and you had Sam tell Chris, that I feel excluded from the plans because we just sat there and then you just started fleshing out this plan. You didn't even have the decency to discuss it with me. Then you had Chris try and say it was a suggestion, it wasn't a plan. And it's like, whether it's a suggestion or a plan, whatever it is, the two of you should have decided on what to say or do. You could have easily said, well, I have my thoughts, but I'm waiting until I've spoken to my husband. That way we can sort of cement those plans that I have, or we can come up with a new plan. But this is something we hadn't taken into consideration. So this is something we're going to do. I think I delayed it out like that. Sam wouldn't feel offended. So for you to have Chris become defensive and become very abrupt and not apologize, and that was terrible because Sam then said, you're using a sharp tone, you're not empathetic. I need you to empathize with how I feel because at the end of the day, this is something that I wasn't involved in. Chris, on his part, is in his feelings. How dare he tell me that I'm not empathetic? People always tell me that I'm an empath. Now I'm sad and I'm disappointed. And it's like, either way, whoever did what, somebody's upset. So the two of you need to sit down and have a conversation. But what was more evident was the fact that Chris is someone who's very stubborn, and once he's got an idea of what he wants to do, that's what he sticks to. I said it in my last review when I said that the problem with Chris is he had an idea of what he wanted his life to look like, and this is what he's aiming for. So because it's not looking like that, this is why he becomes abrupt and dismissive. In the morning, they still had the same conversation, and it's like, this is not getting you anywhere because somebody wants an apology, the other one wants to be called an empath. And unless the two of you actually listen to understand, you're never going to get anywhere. And so they ended up reaching an agree to disagree sort of situation, and it's like, I don't get it, I really don't. The couples then received an honesty box from the experts with tasks for them, or with questions for them to ask one another. First up was Stella and Philip. Their question was, do you see me as the mother of your or father of your children? They both said yes. They see each other, becoming parents. And I think they have a lot going for them as a couple. I think if they can just work on the small sort of discrepancies, they will be fine. You had David and Alicia. Their question was, if we had to do long distance for a while, how much contact do you expect? David said he expects once every fortnight, and then for 3 months, and then after 3 months, the goal would be to move to Sydney. On her part, Alicia was happy. I've forgotten where Alicia comes from. Maybe she's from Sydney. I really have forgotten where she's from. Oh my God, I can't even remember. It's been a while. I thought that was nice in the sense that he said his piece, she listened, and then agreed with whatever she wanted to agree in that, and they kept it stepping. Rachel and Stephen, their question was, can you see yourself falling in love with me? Stephen said, yes, he can. In his long-winded way, I think Stephen lacks experience. I've said this before. I'll continue to hammer on this. I'm not sure this man has had a lot of relationships. I think he and his quirkiness that has sort of held him back from having relationships with women, because most of his issues, I don't think it's not because he's not attracted to his wife. I think it's lack of experience. So at least they can see a horizon. They can see that they will fall in love with one another, which I think is very good. And then Danny and Beck. Oh my God, this was a dumpster fire. First up was, what is one dream or goal of yours that you wouldn't be willing to give up? For me, Danny said he's got a boys' trip booked to Rio, and then he started laughing, and then he went on and said, I want kids, and because I see myself as a dad. And it's like Danny is not taking this thing seriously because he doesn't see himself seriously with this woman. He is waiting until final vows to say no, and then keep it stepping, get his endorsement deals, and off he goes. I think he's seen so many red flags in Beck that he is just going to do whatever it takes just to keep it smooth sailing, or throw her under the bus, and then he can keep it stepping. The next question was, do you think you'll fall in love with me, and why? For Danny to say probably, but not there yet. It's like, this is not what Beck wants to hear. She wants to hear yes, and she wants to hear a deadline, or something to sort of reinforce that. So for him to be giggly and giddy and laugh about it tells me he's not serious. I've said this before. He's not serious about this relationship. He's just buying his time until it's time for him to go, and then he'll keep it stepping. Otherwise, there was no need for him to even joke or laugh. He should have just said to her, I see a future with you. I know my feelings will get there, but I don't know when. And so I can't give you a justifiable reason. That would have made more sense. The couples then received another assignment to write anonymous feedback letters. And it was like, oh, this is going to be a dumpster fire. I'm surprised we didn't see Stella and Philip. Maybe theirs was just positive, and so they kept it stepping. So you had Alicia and David. They were tasked with writing a letter to Rachel and Stephen. And I think production are really trying to sort of preserve Rachel and Stephen, especially after the retreat scenario. This is why they gave them their best friends. And their task was for Stephen to be the boss for the day and to work on increasing intimacy. They put lipstick on their lips and they kissed the envelope and they sent it off with lipstick. When Rachel and Stephen received it, Stephen, oh my God, that little man, lack of experience, really. Because he started laughing and he thought he said he initially thought it was a toy, and then he realized it was lipstick because Rachel told him it was lipstick. Read out the task because he was told, to perform this romantic task. And the two of them immediately knew that it was Alicia and David, and they were excited and happy because of the name that was written. Apparently, it's a pet name that, Alicia uses on Rachel. So they were excited with that. And for me, at the end of the day, I want successful couples. So as long as they're happy, we love it. Gia and Scott were tasked with writing a letter to Alicia and David. And, they started sort of having this back and forth with Scott. And Scott was trying to sort of come up with ideas, but Gia wouldn't listen because she had her ideas of what she wanted to write. So she wrote the letter, sent the letter out. And then the letter was very... I didn't like it. It was messy and shady, and it was easy for Alicia and David to sort of find out who it was. Well, it said, write positive aspects of your partners, and then, you then had so them be assigned the task. So Alicia and David were asked to write a letter to reflect on the letter that they got, and it's like, why be so messy and why be so silly? This is the problem when you have people on different levels of intellect, in the sense that Gia thinks she's the bee's knees when she's not. And sadly for her, she's dealing with people who are high IQ, so they can see through the hot mess or they can sort of read through the lines and understand where she's going and how messy she's being. So you had David and Alicia say, this is a waste of time because, yes, we understand we need to reassure each other, but at the end of the day, she didn't give us any feedback that is productive, and we're not going to perform the task. Kudos to them for standing their ground. That makes sense because that was an offensive letter. It wasn't meant to sort of be constructive at all. You had, finally Steve-O decided to perform the tasks that he had been assigned. He could have easily ordered a pizza or something, and he decided to do microwave nachos with cheese. Oh my God, that was a hot mess. And that looked very hard. I don't even know how they ate it. But then I guess when you really like someone, you tolerate things that you wouldn't tolerate normally. So they had the nachos, and Rachel on her part was excited. Obviously, with the lipstick, she agreed that they would do it in private away from the cameras. And I think that was the best thing they could have done for the two of them. There was no point in the two of them sort of making out with lipstick and stuff in front of cameras. If they want to be intimate, then they need everybody out of the room. So kudos to Rachel for speaking up for that. Gia and Scott got their feedback letter, and the letter was more or less saying, Gia needs to offer reassurance to Scott and encourage them to have no physical intimacy for 10 days. This is where they lost Gia. This is where they lost Gia because Gia has already said she's got a high um, sex drive, and same goes for Scott. So this, I think, is the only thing that bonds them as a couple. This is why she was kicking off, because it doesn't make sense. It's good for you. The two of you need to know each other outside of the physical intimacy. So the idea that you were offended by that and you're kicking off about it doesn't make sense. Obviously, their feedback came from Philip and Stella, so they were very unhappy with that. And it's like, I don't get the big deal. I don't get why they are upset. Really, it's not that big a deal. Danny, I think, sat down with production because you must have had Beck crying. So he came up with little post-it notes around the apartments. He bought flowers, 2 different bouquets. And I think he was encouraged to do this by production. I don't think this is an idea that he came up with. I really don't. I don't think it's an idea that was of his own making. I think somebody told him to do it, and this is what he did. And so he sat down and sort of laid all that. She came in, she was ecstatic, and it's like, Beck is easily impressed by the silliest of things. Yes, he wrote nice things and then made her read it out, which doesn't make sense. If he's trying to be romantic, why not read it out to her? Why not get her to a station, read whatever the post-it note says, go to the next one? That way the words are coming from him, not her reading words that are on paper that could have easily been written by production. So I didn't like that. We then had Scott and Gia on the balcony. Gia was complaining bitterly that she wanted to leave. I want to leave. I want to leave. Scott tried to have a conversation with her, and she said, well, they listen to everything, so don't talk to me about it on when we're mic'd. And it's like, is this a genuine connection, or are they just putting on a performance for the TV? That's the impression that it gave me, that they were just putting on a performance and there was nothing of substance there. You had, on her part, Alicia suddenly stand by the doorway, well, on her balcony, and she saw Gia and Scott leave. I think that was producer driven. I think they wanted the drama at the dinner party, that way everybody else would understand what happened. Do I agree that it's a cop out? Yes, I agree with Alicia and David that it is a cop out for these people to leave just because they don't like something that's taking place. They agreed to participate in the experiment, and that is what they should have done. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Click on the link in my video to watch my review from episode 26. Bye guys.